Hey guys, this is Tom Paul Tipton, your host for the Exchange Podcast. We're coming to you from Living Water Church in Conway, Arkansas. I'd like to welcome you back to another episode and say thank you to those who support this podcast with your contributions. Please like and share us on Facebook and get the word out, and like, subscribe, and share us on YouTube. Send any questions you have and join in on the exchange. For episode 32, I am now Employee of the Month.
There's only two of us here.
And it was a unanimous decision.
I don't remember. You know what, Fidel Castro, you can have that. Go ahead.
I saw this morning and I thought, I've got to get that. Because see the front of it?
Yes.
I love it, man. That was such a great show.
It was.
It was The Office, for those of you who are wondering. But
until Michael left, in my opinion.
That's where the show went down. You're right about that. Then they brought in the one guy. I can never think of his name, but he did some kind of show. I remember back in the 80s, he did some kind of show where he was a radio talk show host, and but then after that, he went nowhere. Yeah. But kind of like this thing with Steve Bannon going to jail, that's going nowhere.
Or how about the $2.75 trillion levied at Alex Jones?
Did I read that right? Because I thought that's what that said.
Alex Jones?
2.7. Yeah.
You want to know how much money he owes? Just to give everybody an idea, he owes roughly in the ballpark of the GDP of France or Canada.
I didn't get to read all that story because that kind of hit me late. I came across it this morning, and I did. What are they? Wasn't it originally $1 billion or $2 billion?
So it was originally rewarded to be like $999 million or something like that.
Okay,
roughly $1 billion. And now the families are coming out saying he's going to owe us $2.75 trillion because while he was saying we faked it, which again I disagree with Alex Jones when he started saying those things, but that's an opinion. While he was saying those things, he was also selling like his supplements. So they're trying to get after him for that.
So they've not made a judgment yet?
No.
Okay, so that's just something they're wanting. I don't think they're going to get it.
No, nobody. In cases like that, you don't. From what I've heard I have some friends who are becoming lawyers, and they were just saying, no, when something like this happens, you don't really see a penny of it because it's more of a statement. Yeah, well, it's a political ploy.
It's kind of like the O.J. Simpson thing, where he was.
What happened with O.J. Simpson?
He
was innocent, right?
Yeah, but they still got him in the civil court.
Yeah,
and then in order to protect his assets, that's why he moved to Florida,
right?
And then he still gets his pension from the NFL. So that's why that he was always able to go out and play golf. And you're going, how does a guy get sued for everything he's got and still go play golf?
Because he's got it, man. He's got it.
But the thing with Alex Jones is I don't see how he ever gets himself out of it. And again, I think we talked about this a little bit last week. I think what that's all about is to keep him from I think that is to keep possible endorsements away from him so that he'll never be on radio again.
Yeah, no, they were talking about it on Timcast, but they were saying that with this type of ordeal, it's just trying to tell everybody else, like, stay in line.
Yeah.
Trying to scare people.
Yeah.
But it in turn will backfire because it's not going to hold up. Now, I'll get more information on that. They say it's because what he was saying was a matter of opinion.
Right.
And you have every right to your opinion.
Mm-hmm.
You saying that you're like 43 years old, I could say Tom Paul Tipton claims that he's 43 years old. He's lying. The statement of fact is that you said you're 43 years old.
Yeah.
However, the opinion is me saying you're lying. And so just because Alex Jones says that these people were lying, that's an opinion.
Right.
And therefore cannot be, can't be levied against.
Right. Well, that's it. I mean, again, we're going to go back to what he said, and it didn't. I know that I think there were some of the people that their lives were threatened, but it wasn't by anything that Alex Jones himself said. Unlike the one speech that we had about a month ago with red lights behind him. And then after that, some 40-some-year-old man
murders,
killed the guy.
Killed the kid.
20-something-year-old MAGA supporter.
No, it was a 19-year-old.
19?
He's just a teenager.
So
gotta leave it at that, man. Because the thing is, no, the kid was an adult, but he was a teenage adult, and we all know that teenage adult still means you're dumb.
Well, yeah,
therefore innocent enough to, hey, he's wearing a MAGA hat, therefore he's a terrorist,
right? And knowing a 19-year-old kid, he knew that the MAGA hat itself was going to spark controversy, and which is probably
sure, but. Every right to do that.
Every right to do it. And it's the same thing with what Alex Jones did. It's every right to do it. And now that brings me to this point. That is the reason that they are trying so desperately to crack down on the iHearts and the all the platforms we're on, iHearts and Spotify and all of it.
Apple.
Because guys like us can come on here and say what we say, although we're very disciplined on what we say. Mm-hmm. We always make certain that what we say, we can back it up. And if not, and we've done it on the show, we've come back and said, hey, I got to retract that. I was wrong.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you say something, and that's the reason why it is best to just weigh everything out. But when a guy like Alex Jones comes out and says what he says, I mean, he even called Donald Trump the most evil man. No, he said he was either the biggest idiot that walked the planet or the most evil man.
Right.
Over vaccines. But that's the difference. Most people on the right, they don't care. They don't care what Alex Jones says.
Nobody cares what Alex Jones says. Nobody cares what anyone says. What they care about is how they feel about what is said. It's not the fact that Alex Jones said it. It's that anybody could have said those particular things, and it would suck. It would suck if somebody, if one of my family members had died in a horrific incident, and then somebody went out and said, oh, they're faking it.
Yeah.
That would suck, period.
Yeah.
But just because, it was a higher figure in terms of popularity, go after him for everything, you know? But the thing is, if another person on the street said, oh, I think they're faking it, I'm going to be mad at them. Mm-hmm. But what am I going to, no, I'm not going to go after that person. It's like, I mean, I hate the fact that his opinion is that, but we have to, that's the world we live in. And that's the world we should be living in, is that, look, this guy said a mean thing. He said an opinion. Leave it at that.
Yeah.
Here's what's not an opinion, though, and a statement of fact. China-backed media companies, in China, of course, are pushing harder and harder for the reunification of Taiwan.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but that doesn't terrify me on a spiritual level, but it definitely terrifies me on a physical level.
Well, I'm not terrified of it.
You're not drafting age, my friend.
Correct, unless it gets like World War II and they did draft people in their 40s.
That's fair,
but that's not what I mean. What I'm talking about is it does have a spiritual significance. That was what I was getting at.
Oh, yeah.
Was on a spiritual significance. I mean, we are definitely at a point where I believe where Christ said that there will be wars and rumors of wars.
Yeah, of course.
And I think that but he also goes on and he says, but those are not, the end is not yet. Those are just the birth pains. These things must happen.
Right.
We are at that point where things must happen. And when you look at the world as it is right now, I just don't see I personally do not understand how people take it so nonchalantly without any level of seriousness. However, the scripture lets us know that too.
I'll tell you how they do that. So, the Bible is God's perfect literary device in terms of, we all know what a book is. We all know how stories go. Every book, whether it's nonfiction, fiction, science, fantasy, science fiction, whatever, it invokes something in you. Even if you're just reading about thermodynamics or something, it invokes something in you. Stories have always done something to us, and the thing about the Bible is that it is something that we have, the world, not we as in you and I or the church, but we as the world have deemed as nonfiction, and therefore to be nonchalant about it. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, as somebody who likes to write short stories on his off time, I see the four horsemen of the apocalypse not as physical manifestations of horsemen of apocalypse, but as literary devices to show like this is a time where there will be famine or war. Or
I think that's all they meant it anyway.
Yeah, of course. But the thing is, I wouldn't have known that if I wasn't studious in the Word, studious in reading stories, because human beings, everything that we do is derived in some way from God's perfect creation.
Sure.
So every story that is popularized in mainstream media has a Jesus Christ figure somehow, some way. Luke Skywalker, Harry Potter, Hercules, you name it, all the way back to the old stories, they all have a Christ-like figure. So when it comes to understanding that concept, you can understand that real life will be a watered down version of what God was trying to say. Because in the Bible, we know that the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are, famine, war, conquest, and death, correct?
Yes.
And so because those are the things a lot of people say, oh, well, we know the Bible. If the Bible's so true, then why haven't those horsemen shown up? The thing is, those horsemen aren't necessarily what you think they're going to be. They're going to be periods and moments in time where what has the United States done 90% of its existence? It's been at war. We have been at war 90% of since we were conceived up until now. We have been at war about roughly 85 to 90%.
Well, especially once we started getting involved with European affairs, which is exactly what Washington said not to do. But as far as I think some people do read the Bible and they expect all of this to be, and I do believe that the tribulation will be physical. But the 4 horsemen themselves is going to be time periods. I believe. I know there's going to be debate on that, but I believe that there are time periods. And if you read how that they are released in different stages. They're not. Yeah. They're all riding together, but they all have their specific zenith, if you will, at certain times. War and pestilence, I think, can go hand in hand. Which, again, he tells the one writer not to touch the oil and the wine, and he's talking about the wealthy. So even God realizes that even during a time of pestilence, that the wealth cannot be destroyed. Because there has to be something that keeps those engines running. When you look at the Bible, if you read it and you break it down to how that they were looking at it, John was having a very spiritual. He was in a very spiritual situation on the Isle of Patmos.
Yep.
So when he looks at that, the Bible says that he was in the Spirit on the Lord's day. God was showing him things that would come up on the earth, and the Revelation says that. But I think that many times we see those things that are coming on the earth kind of in today's day and times almost like a backsplash. And so that's why I'm saying I get it. I understand why people look at that and they just kind of go as life as it was, because the Bible says, as it were in the days of Noah. People didn't care. Yeah. They knew what Noah was saying. And the difference with them is there was really nothing at that time that would have suggested what Noah was saying was true.
For sure.
Now, it's a completely different story. You've got all this stuff going on that you're going, that could be true. And some of it's happening.
Yeah. I think China and Russia and the countries that are all joining China and Russia in terms of, for instance, Brazil's joining them financially. The Saudis are thinking of joining them.
Russia?
By the way, yeah. Terms of,
Biden upset them.
That quid pro quo was just absolutely
Well, it's not only that. Iran is their number one enemy in the Middle East.
Yeah.
And he doing exactly what Obama did, and he is supporting Iran. And again, Iran is another biblical figure.
Yeah. Yeah. It is insane at how much of a chef's kiss this is a disaster. Mm-hmm. And it's also not insane for those of us who are believers, because at this point it's more along the lines of, that's happening. I guess I guess we're here now.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Don't get discouraged, fellow believers. We're not saying, hey, this is the end. We should all just kind of cower and stick our heads
No,
in the
Revelation
sand.
says opposite.
Yeah, we should really rev it up, really talk to people, and really get things going, because I don't know when Christ is coming back, but hey, that's okay, because I'm faithfully working best I can, and there have been times where I've had my mistakes and I've made such pitfall or fallen into pitfalls, but that's the best part about grace. You can get back up, and the enemy has a spirit, because we give the enemy too much credit, right?
Absolutely.
We give Satan, we give him way too much power in saying, man, I can't believe he's doing all this. No, here's the really scary part. And by scary, I mean it is actually terrifying. Humans are doing this on their own. Mm-hmm. Humans without the Spirit of God will do the most heinous crimes against one another. And God knows this. Satan knows this. Mm-hmm. God doesn't want us to do it. Mm-hmm. And Satan is like, I'm just going to let them do what they want. And it's like you said, just like the times of Noah.
Well, he influences.
Yeah, of course.
Satan doesn't have authority, because Jesus said that all authority comes from him. Satan doesn't have authority, but he's definitely got influence. And to say that he's not a powerful figure, he is. He's not powerful enough that he can just come in and kill, steal, and destroy as he would. That's what he would like to do. And he does in many cases, but on the same token, that's where you're right, because if a human is turned over to who they are, they do that to themselves.
Yeah.
With his help, don't get me wrong, because, I mean, at the end of the day, we as humans are depraved enough that we can find our own way into plenty of trouble, but we can't get out of it.
No, for sure.
Not unless we have, not unless we have our faith in Christ. And that is really what we as a podcast try to do is let people know it's not hopeless. There is hope. Mm-hmm. And you were talking about not to lose faith. One of the reasons why that the people hated the prophets in the Old Testament wasn't because the prophets were always prophesying doom and gloom. It was because what the prophets did, like when you read about Isaiah, you read about Ezekiel, you read about Elijah, all of the prophets, what they did is they came to an awareness of their worthlessness. I mean, that's about the best way I can put it, because, I mean, they would have these experiences with God that would cause them to die to self. Mm-hmm. And when we as believers die to self, we find that's why that Jesus said that a prophet is not without honor except in his home country.
Yeah.
Because when we have died to self, we remind those around us who know us that there is a God and that he does change us.
Right.
There's nothing we can do for ourselves.
Yeah.
If he doesn't touch our lips with the coal of his righteousness, and there's going to be a deforming effect to that, then it reminds everyone around us that there is a God and that he does have a standard and he does require change. Mm. And that is where we are with society and with culture. I mean, there's a lot of craziness out there. I think there's some coming back, as you can see with certain things like Roe v. Wade. I think there's some coming back to our senses, and I pray it's an awakening. But one of the reasons why that that they want to literally persecute you if you say something like, I believe that everyone has a right to life, is because you are saying something that goes against complete and utter irrational craziness going on in society and culture today. And that's what the prophet did. The prophet in the Old Testament went against the culture and against what the society wanted.
Right.
Because what they were saying to them was, guys, your normal is not normal to God. God's normal looks very abnormal. Even the scriptures in the New Testament says that the preaching of the cross is foolishness to those that are perishing.
I mean, that reminds me of the abolitionists. They just came out and said, hey, just so you know, this normal we have of slavery, it's not good.
That's right.
And something else that happened this week, going over to another story that I found. You may not know him, but have you ever heard of the H3 podcast?
The H3?
H3.
I've heard of it, yeah.
Ethan Klein is in charge of it. This is how crazy things are getting. He has outright gone on his show to talk about Kanye's quotes about Jewish people.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard that, which that's a discussion if you want to have. But Kanye, what you doing, bud? But Ethan Klein on H3 Podcast just said, if there is another Holocaust, I hope Shapiro gets evaporated. I'm not going to say what he said because I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube or anything, but he hopes that Ben Shapiro is harmed in said Holocaust. And so what we're making normal is, it's okay to wish death upon somebody if they don't agree with you in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. Because here's the thing. I don't agree with H3. I don't agree with the Young Turks. I don't agree with Hassanabi. But if something terrible was to happen, I truly would want to find a way to help them if something was to happen to them.
Right.
That is from me. That is from any person who is a believer in Christ.
Yeah.
That should be anybody that any and everybody I know who's actually conservative would say that they still need to be defended, even if politically we don't like each other.
Yeah. No, I can't remember who said it offhand, but the one philosopher who said, I disagree with everything you say, but I'll fight to the death for your right to say it.
Exactly.
As we've said here about bullying, when they say something like that about Ben Shapiro, at least you know who they are. At least you know that those guys are there. But if we try to silence them, those guys could come up and concoct some kind of weird plan and actually try to pull it off. Yeah. And you don't know. You don't know because, again, Jesus said from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Mm-hmm. Everything. Here's what we find is that a lot of people who are on the far left, going back to Elijah, the Bible says King Ahab wants to meet with him. And so he goes to meet with him. And one of the things that Ahab says to him is he says, you troubler of Israel. And Ahab quickly responds and says, I'm not the troubler, you are. Because what he did is he had led all the people into extreme idol worship. But what you find is many people who are of a liberal mindset and a leftist mindset against the fundamental, they will always blame the fundamentalists and the conservative for what they're doing. And that's what Ahab does in the Old Testament. He says he calls he calls him the troubler of Israel, or Elisha rather. And no, it's Elijah, I'm sorry. So that's what we're seeing with a lot of it is they are trying to say, well, MAGA is the most existential threat. But yet it's, and they want to say, well, MAGA is, and this isn't a plug for MAGA, okay? I'm just literally quoting what they're saying. They're always saying, well, these guys are, they're misogynists, they're racist, they're homophobic, whatever. White supremacists. And it's actually them.
Yeah, I mean, that's something. So H3, they came out with, Ethan said that he announced the H3 podcast was suspended from YouTube. I don't know how long, but he got a third strike. Because a couple months ago, he did wish that somebody would go down to the NRA and kaboom that area. Said somebody should.
See that?
And he came out, I want to say yesterday or today, saying that white supremacists are the ones to blame for him getting kicked off of YouTube. Guys,
Really?
The consequences of your own actions are yours.
Yeah.
You can't put it on anyone else. Okay?
Right.
I can't come out here and say the most homophobic, insults ever and then expect people to actually hear what I have to say. I'm not here to insult people. Right. I'm not here to harm people. But if I come up here and say it, and even if it's a joke, hey, guys, listen, yeah, sure. You have every right to say it as a joke.
Yeah.
Just like people have a right to take it as you're blank, you're racist, you're white supremacist, you're whatever. But the thing is, it's hard to tell a joke with these guys. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes they'll be laughing and say, ha ha ha, you're a moron to like their friends, but that they turn to their political enemies and they say, I hope you die. I hope you burn. I hope. And it's like, that's not a joke.
No, that is that's breaking the laws. What that is, and I don't care if somebody thinks that because I'm a Christian I need to burn, or I don't care what they think. I really don't. What I do care about is when they try to carry it out. If they try to carry it out, and that is what that's really what the Second Amendment's for. It's for somebody who would try to carry that out. So, I mean, again, do I think he should have been taken off for some of the stuff he said? They've taken everybody else off, but at the same time, where does silencing stop?
Well, let me ask you this: you might change your opinion on this. I don't know how you feel about what you just heard, but he's a huge advocate and has pushed for the deplatforming of many people, even on his own political side. This is a man who has repeatedly gone out of his way to say, I hope this person gets banned. I hope YouTube needs to do something about this, take them off there. Yeah. So I mean,
well, and that my question there goes is who has made you that?
Yeah.
That person.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, that would be like us saying that we hope, a rival podcast, one that has about the same attendant audience as we do.
We have a rival?
No, we're the best. But no, I mean, so I mean that would be like us saying we wish they go off.
Yeah.
No, because what that does is that makes me want to do better at this
competition
podcast.
breeds excellence, man.
But that's the problem with many of those and those are the people that have caused people like Tulsi Gabbard to leave the Democrat Party.
Yeah, still waiting on the jury on that one. Still waiting on the jury.
No, she has not left her belief. She still holds to all of her liberal ideologies.
Right. That's why it's like,
and that's why you never heard me say that she's left. She's not a conservative, and she'll tell you she's not a conservative. She's just left the party that wants to silence everybody.
That's fair.
I do believe her on that. I do believe that she's, that she does think that, okay, if a Bernie Sanders is going to be out there, then you should allow a Donald Trump to be out there.
Fair.
Right. I do think she does believe that. And I think that's all she's saying. Have you listened to any of her podcasts?
No, I probably should. I'll put that on the list.
She talks about a lot of that stuff. And
that's fair.
I think that she realizes that the AOCs are completely corrupting that party.
Have you seen AOC at some of her rallies?
No.
Okay. So AOC's having like a rally in an auditorium, right?
Uh-huh.
And it's not packed or anything, but there are people there. Yo, she's being turned on by her own people. You voted for violence in Ukraine. You voted for weapons to go over there. What's happening to the Democratic Party? We're not for war. Why are you doing this? Like, people are yelling at her from what I've read so far, all the rallies that she's gone to try to promote her being reelected and all that jazz or whatever. She's getting booed, hated on.
She needs to answer back and say, what are you talking about? We're not for war. We started the Civil War.
Yeah, there's that. I mean, hey, look, I get it. Tulsi Gabbard, it takes guts to get up and say, I'm against the establishment. I hope that she sticks with it. Mm-hmm. I really do. I hope that she sticks with that plan. Because here's a good reason why you would want to leave the Democratic Party, because, they trust the science. And this is the same science that at the Center for Disease Control and Prevention.
I'm the science.
They advised a committee and recommended children over the age of 6 months and adults should get the COVID vaccine when they are eligible. They want to put it on the vaccine immunization schedule. Let me ask you something, Thomas. What's COVID-19? That's a question from a time travel.
China virus.
Because
I'm not supposed to say that.
Listen, it's not a... I can't say that because we're a small channel. We are a really small channel. And they might... COVID-19... Listen, COVID-19 is at this point, is like a band on tour.
Yeah.
It feels like the tour has ended, and now you're seeing them pop up in random areas, do shows, and it's like, hey, they're popular enough that when you hear that the COVID-19s are in Nebraska, you're like, wow,
I think it's worse than a band that's on tour and quit. I think it's more like the Salem witch trials.
Well, I agree, but
Because that's what they were doing.
No, I agree. But what I'm saying is, at this point, it's like, well, COVID-19 is here to stay. Yes, every biological disease.
No, wait a minute. I thought he said it was gone. I thought.
Oh, no. Biden said this. Biden said that COVID-19. This is something Biden said. Was it's over. Something that Biden said.
Yeah,
I had to put all those Biden saids in there so people understand that Biden said that. Okay, I learned from prominent.
Biden said.
Exactly. He said, "True to not a shout of pressure." All right. And here's the thing. Look, I don't understand why it has to be on the immunization schedule when, surprise, surprise, a lot of people who didn't get the vaccine haven't had any issues. Yeah. And the people who did get the vaccine are like, okay, sure, whatever. I got the vaccine. Right. I got the vaccine once when I had no idea what was going on.
That's the same with me.
And then afterwards, I still got the COVIDs.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think I did have it.
And then I'm like, okay, so whatever. And then they said booster shots. No, dude, I still got it. I'm not getting it. Now it's the problem because people aren't getting it. Guys, chill. Let it take its course. And it did. And you know something? Did it kill people? Yes. Is my heart out for those who lost loved ones because of these deaths? Yes. However, here's a hard thing about the world and life. People are dying every day from car accidents. In fact, every minute a man commits self-delete. Every day, every minute.
Right.
But you want to know what the world does? We move on. Mm-hmm. Is that a terrible statistic?
Well, we had to with the Black Plague. We had to with the Spanish influenza. We've had to with every virus out there.
At this point, somebody, I'm not going to say who, somebody wants to control a group of somebodies. And I'm not going to say who because obviously somebody might say I'm a conspiracy theorist. But at this point, controlling the health and wellness of people is now the government's position instead of, hey, go to the gym. In fact, I will be going back to the gym this week because this back pain is terrible. But this is what you guys should do. You should take care of yourself by eating healthy. Mm-hmm. Grass-fed beef is always a great start. If you can't afford that, chicken's always good. And vegetables, try not to drink too many, of the alcohol because it's not really necessarily good for you. And, hey, fruit's actually a good thing for you to be eating all the time, and it's sweet, and it can replace candy, just so you know. So that's my that's all I have to say about the CDC.
This segment of your nutrition is brought to you by JaVaughn Iversen.
Oh, I thought it was brought to you by Pfizer.
Pfizer?
When do we get the dancing syringes?
Well, that's why Pfizer won't back us, because we can't make them dance.
Can't make them dance, and I won't shill for that because I want people to be healthy on a natural level because naturally us humans were made to move around and not be cooped up in a building.
That's right. I mean, look, they shut us down for, 6 months, was it? A year? How long did they have us all shut
down? I thought it was 15 to slow the spread.
Well,
they had us shut down for about 18 months. 18 months, major corporations were fine. Walmart, Amazon, Costco. I love Costco, but still they were running at peak capacity. And they're running these things. Those corporations are fine, but mom and pops on the side of the road, shut them down because they are terrible for society. We don't want people going into these small stores. We want these people all congregating at the giant facilities known as Walmart, Target, the mall. The mall.
I mean, everything was shut down. I mean, I think a lot of it was to see. Look, this is going to get on the side of conspiracy theory, I'm sure.
Well, we are past the 30-minute mark, so we are in the.
But I think that everything past the 30-minute mark is not our responsibility.
Free game.
We are not responsible for what comes across these microphones after 30 minutes. I think that a lot of it was to see what they could do, see if they could force the church to shut down. That's really what I think a lot of it was. Could they cause churches and Christians to comply? And I think they unfortunately got their answer.
Well, no. They didn't get, because here's the thing.
Not all of them.
I was about to say, they didn't get all of them. And those who are willing to comply with what the world has to say, I would question their their faith.
Mm-hmm.
It's because I don't put my faith in the nation. I don't put
No.
my faith in people. I put my faith in God alone.
Yeah.
And if my conviction, and if I do that, and I trust in the Spirit, that the Spirit will give me conviction about what's going on. I got the vaccine because I wasn't convicted to not get it.
Sure.
However, I realized once they were starting to say that people like my wife, who has severe asthma and could be affected by it, my conviction said protect your family.
Right.
Which was, when my wife asked me if she should get the vaccine, I knew she didn't want to, but because she's a faithful wife, she wanted to discuss it with me. I said no.
Yeah.
I said no. And if they get on to you about it, I will gladly get whatever religious exemption or medical exemption or whatever. I will take them to wherever I need to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to put my family at risk. And those people who said, hey, we're going to get it anyways, and then something happened. Because here's the thing. Everybody's like, oh, that's anecdotal. It's not anymore. At this point, there are people who are passing out. There were people dying right after getting the vaccine. And that is terrifying because it could happen to any vaccine. But this one alone got silenced for no apparent reason other than in a lot of people's opinions. It just wasn't what it was supposed to be. It was just a control game. It was a game of chess.
Well, that's all. Yeah, I mean that the whole shutting everything down. That's nothing you find in our history. I know some people say, well, the Spanish flu, but that again, let's look at who was president when that happened. It was Woodrow Wilson. But let me make certain before I say that. But okay. I believe it was.
Let me check.
But it was in 1918.
Mm-hmm.
But Woodrow Wilson was president, and he was one of the most progressive presidents that we've had.
Woodrow Wilson.
Yeah. So one of the most progressive presidents that we had, and there was things that he did that even the American people at that time got very alarmed over. And I think a lot of it was, I mean, that is I personally believe it. That I'm not saying you have to. I personally believe that it was to see just how far they could push the American people. And in many cases, they saw exactly how far they could push them. Because we're still arguing over it. I had someone on Twitter the other day. I loved it. Said that I was a Kool-Aid drinker for Donald Trump because what it was, I had just simply said that I wouldn't be surprised if they don't arrest Donald Trump. And if they do arrest him, it's going to be their undoing. Because you remember the movie Few Good Men, when Tom Cruise's character is getting ready to put Jack Nicholson's character, the Colonel, on the stand. And even his own defense team and the judge is saying, you better be sure before you do this. Because in that real life scenario, that would have never got to him. They would have sacrificed some first or second lieutenant before that ever got to a high ranking officer of his,
Yeah.
And, and it's the same thing was like, okay, I wouldn't, they've already subpoenaed him to court, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, I wouldn't be shocked if they don't arrest him for some kind of political maneuver, but it's not going to play well. This woman comes on calling me saying I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, and the whole time she's got a mask on that's the color of the Ukrainian flag. And I said, coming from the woman with the Ukrainian flag mask.
Anything that's trendy.
Yeah.
Jokingly, I heard somebody say liberals are like every suburban white woman who has nothing better to do but drink wine and just like get upset over nothing stuff.
That's really who's doing a lot of this.
I know. I'm just saying, I sit there and I think, yeah, because you'll see people. My pronouns are he, him. I have a mask on my face in my profile picture that is the color of the Ukrainian flag, and the background is the rainbow flag because everyone's queer. Yeah, and it's like, okay, here's the thing. Your identity doesn't have to be all of that,
right?
In fact, my identity is the only thing I want people to know me by should be my belief in Jesus Christ, how I live my life, helping other people.
Yeah.
And again, like I said earlier in the podcast, it doesn't always work like that. But when I hear coworkers say, "Man, Jay's a Jay's a Christian man. He wouldn't, say that. I take that as a badge of honor. Or if I make a joke that isn't necessarily racy or anything, but it makes people laugh, people will say, "Oh, I thought you were a Christian man. I didn't know you were funny." That's always funny to hear because Christians don't have a sense of humor. That's always a fun joke. But that's the identity I want to have. But when people don't have Christ, they want their identity to be something that is loved by everyone. Ukraine, pride flag, Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
He, him pronouns, all these different things. And again, I'm not bashing you for having those things that you like, but you're just as bad. I make fun of people who get all up in arms about their sports teams.
Yeah.
It's like, Raider Nation, baby. Okay, dude.
What is the purpose of he, him? Is that just them saying that
they're just virtue signaling? That is just a virtue.
No. I know that, but I mean, like, what are they trying to say? Are they saying that they're cisgendered? Is that it?
Oh, I don't know. That thing is a Rubik's Cube of
I don't get it.
Of a bunch of different things because you can be what they call cisgender, trans, blah stuff. I don't know. It's a mix and match, right?
Yeah.
Like I couldn't tell you, mainly because I don't indulge in it. So
Sure.
I don't know.
No. Yeah. Same here.
I know. And so I'm confused. So I mean, if anybody's out there who is trans, possibly listening to this, if that's at all possible, by all means, please educate me because I would like to know so that I don't like step on all the billions of landmines you guys have placed in front of me.
Well, I'm not worried about that because I mean, we're always going to tell the truth here,
right? But just because we're telling the truth doesn't mean we can't navigate it well enough to go, hey, here's.
Yeah, but as far as like worrying about stepping on a landmine, I mean,
it's inevitable.
My God, they have so changed the goalposts.
It's inevitable.
They do it every time you wake up, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like it's designed for someone who disagrees with them to make a mistake.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah, I know.
And that's the thing. It's like, look, I'm not playing. I am not. Listen, I am not involving myself, or am I going to make myself worry about what I agreeing or disagreeing with them? Because I mean, we've said from the beginning with this podcast that we're just going to tell the truth, and we're going to tell what we believe from a biblical standpoint.
Sure.
And I can't. I mean, if you want me to disagree with what the Bible says, you want me to disagree with what I know God says, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
we're gonna have problems.
No, and
I'm not. That's not what you're saying.
Yeah. So my younger brother Jalen, he gave me the idea of, I'm done trying to convince people. I'm not gonna. You do you. I'm gonna do me. And here's the thing: the Bible says this. If I live my life a certain way, someone somewhere is gonna go, I want that.
Yeah.
And it's shown. It's shown in the young men who come to my youth group.
Yeah.
It's shown in the friendships I'm starting to make.
Yeah.
And the reality is that us Christians, the only way we are convincing people is if we are truly living our life out for Christ. Mm-hmm. And when people have questions, yes, that's when you answer the questions.
Yeah.
But let me tell you something that my dad has taught me. And I think I've said this on the podcast before, but Christians, this is for you. This is for all of us. Mind your business. Live your life. And then when somebody has a question, then you answer it. But live your life in such a way that nobody can deny that you're a Christian. Mm-hmm. Because if you mind your business and you do those things, and not mind your business like, oh, you see somebody who's struggling, don't help them. But don't go out of your way. Like if you know somebody, for instance, we were talking about, if you know somebody who's trans at your job for some reason, I would say,
well, that's none of my business.
Exactly. Don't go out of your way to be like, so you're trans, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You can go up to them and be like, hey, what's up? Let's say it's a male to female, and you're like, how's it going? Mary, whatever.
Yeah.
Hey, Mary, a couple of the guys are thinking about going out to dinner after work, just whatever, just to hang out. Would you like to come? We're all going to hang out, just camaraderie, stuff like that. That's fine because you're being a good Christian who's going to invite them to, so they know, oh, I know he's a Christian, but he invited me and he's not a jerk. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to go past that, but you don't have to go out of your way to try to condemn everyone to hell. All right. I
Right.
think that's what people are sick and tired of Christians of being.
Well, it's like there was something a few months ago or a few weeks ago where these people in the Wicca religion were doing something, and these Christians out of nowhere just kind of came and started an argument with them.
Right.
You know, and I get it. It's like, okay, you disagree with them, but you'd have been a whole lot more effective by just going up and saying, "Hey, let's have a conversation about that."
Yep.
You show up and all of a sudden you've got signs and you're just hollering scripture verses. Well, that doesn't mean, because first off, what you're doing is you're talking to people that probably know a little bit about the Bible themselves, and they've rejected it.
Oh yeah, that's exactly who a lot of these people are. A lot of these people are just Christians or people who grew up in the Christian system. I'll say, not in the faith, because they fell away. They grew up in that system of knowing what the Bible was. You go up to them and you're like, well, do you know that Jesus says, and they're going to go, yep, he also says this, and he also says that, and he throws it back in your face, and you're looking like a fool. Yeah. Because you wanted to start a fight. Did Jesus go out of his way to start fights? No. The Pharisees came to him and tried to start fights, and Jesus is a defensive fighter. That's what he is. He's a defensive fighter. Oh, what about the people in the temple? We're not talking about that. We're talking about actual having a conversation.
Yeah. Well, he'd go on the offensive with the religious establishment.
Yeah.
And but you go to Luke chapter 9, and he tells his disciples, he said, when you go into a town and you go there and they reject you, shake the dust off your feet. Later in that very same chapter, they go and they preach somewhere, and the people don't accept them, and they come back and they say, do you want us to call fire down on them? And you can almost hear Christ's frustration there. He's saying, what did I just tell you a few hours ago?
Yeah.
Shake the dust off. I didn't say anything about burning anybody's house down.
Yep.
Right? It's like your job is to just preach it.
Yep.
And then let the chips fall where they may.
Yep.
And so from your employee of the month,
it was a rigged election.
Plenty of mail-in ballots. I'm going to say I enjoyed it. It was a good podcast.
Yeah, it was a great exchange. I had a good time. Everybody, if you guys liked what you heard, go ahead and hit that like button. If you didn't like what you heard, we are very thankful that you listened all the way through. And you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, Spreaker, and Facebook, along with the YouTube channel, The Exchange Podcast. We're really thankful for everybody helping out and subscribing. Go ahead and share this podcast particularly, and check out the last one, which is the last episode we just did with Thomas and I, because he was missing for a little while and he left me all alone. But we still love him.
Actually, that wasn't the last one. That was one before the last one.
No, I know. I'm saying the last one, you came back from leaving me. All right? I have abandonment issues because of you. All right? You left me at the altar.
Also, talk to your friends. Get them to listen. Try to get them to like, subscribe, and share. We're trying to get up to 100 by the 100th episode. That is our goal. And we've already got well over that listen to us, but I'd really like to reach that number by the 100th episode on YouTube.
Yeah.
And
100 subscribers on YouTube, baby.
And so with that, I'm going to say, be blessed.